Suprabhat to each and everyone. Sir, Suprabhat, sir.
Suprabhat, sir.
We are very much blessed today to have a lecture from Dr. Shekhar, sir. So, we who needs no introduction to the homeopathic fraternity in today's homeopathic world. You all know his ability to deliver lectures in a very simplified manner so that they penetrate into the heart of the homeopathic students. So I don't want to take much time, as you all know him, to introduce him again and again. So that we will have time to hear from sir. Okay. So let us hear from the master straight away about the idea of his book and the way in which a case should be taken. Sir, the stage is yours, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
So very Suprabhat to everybody. And it's a real pleasure to be on this platform today. The only reason why I say always on every platform that it is a pleasurable moment is because the idea of sharing is the idea of multiplying your understanding, your growth, and your development as a human being. In mathematics, they say when you divide, the number becomes lesser and lesser. But in human version, when you divide the knowledge, when you divide the idea, when you divide the concept, when you divide something of what you know, it multiplies tenfold more. And therefore, life is completely a different ballgame in comparison to mathematics, what we learn. The more we divide love, the more it gets multiplied. The more we divide knowledge, the more it gets multiplied. And having said so, the idea of this division of knowledge or the idea of this division of love and affection towards other person comes from the very concept of connecting with the other person. When you connect to a person, doesn't mean that you nearly have to be agreeing to everything that the person says. There can be a difference of opinion, I say. But the idea is, in that connection, have I heard everything that the person has to say? Only then you can reciprocate to whatever has been said. The complete hearing and then processing what I've heard is the establishment of connection. And most of the time, what happens to all of us in good days, good times, bad times is we only hear what we want to hear. And therefore, what is actually to be heard is unheard. And there begins the friction. And therefore, the connection is not established. And if the connection is not established, there cannot be a communication. And communication is all about two-way dialogue and not a monologue. And for a dialogue to happen, there has to be proper reception, proper execution of the given subject of that communication. And thus, when the entire communication sets up, in the end, the whole product is about a proper conversation that you had. Based on that proper conversation, then begins the idea of analysis of that conversation. evaluation of that conversation, and coming to some sort of a conclusion regarding that conversation. When you do this entire process in a linear fashion, from connection till conversation, only then the end product is fruitful, as what we say. Because it's a dialogue, and in a dialogue, like the dicotyledon, it has the benefit for both the parties who are in sync in that conversation. And so, if we really have to make our life to live in the moment of now, not only in our practice, but also when we are dealing with any person out of the clinic as a human being, in a human society, this conversation, when it is allowed to remain in its purest form, you are living the moment of now. And thus, you are allowing your receptors, that is the special senses, to live the moment. And when you live the moment, every second of your breathing, every second of your life, you are experiencing. This experience is the ultimatum, because the experiencer in that experience is something that is really enjoying to the fullest and growing in life. Because this experience that is gathering are not only his thoughts, are not only his ideas, are not only his assumptions, but the reality of the moment of now. And what happens when we do not have a proper connection, communication, and conversation? The whole idea is that I live in my world of thoughts. I live with my own ideas. And I create a boundary of my own ideas and thoughts, and not allowing anybody else's ideas to penetrate inside. And therefore, there is no proper analysis or evaluation of that particular subject. It lands up purely with my assumption. It lands up purely with my own imaginations. And thus, when I live with my own assumptions and imaginations, that deluded state makes me to live life a lonely loner life, because there is nobody else's ideas that is coming, and there is no manthan that is happening. When you communicate and converse, that manthan, that churning that happens, and the clarity of the idea or the clarity of the subject that emerges from that churning, and giving you that beautiful, beautiful sweetness of that particular communication, is marvelous. And thus, what I landed up after 33 years of practice, the idea about what is going wrong in our field and what is going wrong in this particular humanity as such. Why is there so much amount of friction? Why is there so much amount of difference of opinion? Why is there where two people's thoughts are not coming at one platform? Why is there no reciprocation and response to what they're perceiving? There is a huge, huge lacuna between this perception and the execution that a person does. And the idea that really came into me was the birth of these P's, where the purpose of that particular connection is not established. When we pick up a phone to call up somebody, do we have a subject to it or no? There is a proper subject regarding what I am trying to connect to that person. Does anybody ever have said that I called up that person just like that? It doesn't happen. So therefore, there is a subject of conversation for which the person is trying to connect to the other person. Once the purpose of connect is established regarding what am I going to talk to the other person, if I have an issue. Likewise, if the patient has an issue, the patient will connect to us because they have now picked up that mobile or that gadget and clicked that button to connect to us. Having a purpose of particular subject, which will eventually, what we call case taking, is a conversation that is happening between the patient and the physician. Similarly, between any person to I as a human being. So the purpose gives us the idea what to talk. What is the subject of talk? What is the content in that talk? What is the focus of talk? What are the priorities in that content that the person is talking? Because the person talking will have so many contents in it. But we need to understand first where is the focus? What is the priority that that person, because he has tried to connect to us. And we are trying to solve that particular problem of that person in that moment of time. So our purpose also is to ask the proper question, which will cater to that focus of that person's subject. Out of so many things that is there that have been told to us by him or her, there could be one or two important aspects of that person's life story that may be of utmost importance. This is called as the tracing of the content in that subject. Once we trace that, then comes the idea of possibilities, because there can be 1, 2, 3 important content in that subject. So therefore, when the possibilities come, we need to find out what are the possibilities, note it down, fair enough, because this is your subject, this is your possibilities. So I will then ask the next purposeful question, what is of utmost importance in these possibilities? For someone, it can come directly to one content of that subject. For other person, it may be still two. That becomes the probability, this or that. The next P is the probability. When probability comes, the idea of us is to ask which one you would like to start with, A or B. Again, you're giving the choice to that person. If the person chooses B as the point, go with B. If it doesn't go anywhere, you still have A, because that also stands along with that B as the focus of that subject or the content of that subject, as the possibility, because it is this or this. When you give the choice to the person A or B, the person might pick up B and go ahead with it. If it doesn't go anywhere, you still have the A possibility that is there. Then you can come back to the A and go ahead. Because humanly, sometimes it becomes such that we are unable to decide which one. Even when we go to buy clothes, even when we go to buy footwear, many a time it so happens, is this the right one? Is this the right one? Is this the color that I want? Is this the color? Both look good. What should I do? This is human tendency. So therefore, probabilities can come, will come, must come, should come, because it's humanly a human version of having the confusion or the doubt whether this or that. And therefore, every time humanly we make choices, we always have this whether this or that. If I bring in a box of assorted sweets and present it in front of all of you all, hardly one out of the hundreds will pick up whatever they want. Rest all will look at that box. The yellow color sweet should I take? The pink color should I take? Or that green color should I take? Or the tricolor that is that I should pick up? Which one? They'll probably put their finger on all of them and try to see and decide. But yet when they pick up, they still are not sure whether they have made up their mind to pick up this. This is probability. And once you go through that probability, till that time it is dicey as a physician for us also, and as a patient or the other person who's sitting in front of us also. So it can go ahead and come back, go ahead and come back. But at certain point of time, one will notice that the person has gone ahead and not come back. And they are going through with that whatever they have picked up. That becomes the prospect. The prospect is one singular path of issue or a subject or a focus or a content of that person's life story. Or, like for example, the sweet box that I said, when you picked up, now the only thing that you can do is eat it. Or someone would pick up, keep it back in the box, pick up the other one. Not this, sorry, I would prefer to take this. That dicey is still the probabilities. But once the confirmation happens through the person's mind, body, and soul, then it goes to the path of prospect. And once the prospect comes, that singular path, this is my problem, doctor. Or this is the problem, this is my problem, gentlemen. Or madam, this is my problem. Then you straight away start moving in that direction. That is the time when you will see a huge shift in that person. And that shift is something to do with the pitch, the volume, the pace, the rhythm of that person's talk, gesture, body language, everything. And the reason for that is what? The reason is because he or she and you, both of you, are going on that path for the first time ever. It is like that sweet that you have picked up and put it into your mouth. You're tasting it for the first time ever. You don't know about it at all before this. Now you're going to really relish the flavor of it. Oh, wow, this was of milk. I never knew. Oh, wow, this had a caramel inside. I never knew. Outside, it didn't look like that. Because externally, you cannot make out what is the stuffing inside. So when you reach that particular prospect and go ahead, the stuffing starts to now get marinated. And it will take a little time, as what we can say, it takes a little time to understand the flavor of that sweet, because we have to chew it. We have to roll our tongue inside to get the flavor of the taste buds to understand what it is. Likewise, that pause comes into a picture for the physician, because both the person in front and the physician are now going to that path for the first time ever. So the patient, physician, the pause. The three P's over there in that circle where the pause is. So that triangular series that is happening over there is the journey for the first time experiencing, not intellectually telling, not telling through wisdom, not telling through past experience, but the experience in the moment of now, because the sweet has now entered into the mouth. The teeth is now chewing it. The tongue is now tasting it, which I've never ever had it before, or neither can I compare it with something that I had before. This pause really helps us in making our receptors The eyes, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the skin, the special senses, what we call, to enjoy the beauty of that experience that is coming up in that moment of now, which is speaking, which is exploring. And remember, when it is exploring, you need to give it a time to explore. Nothing can be explored in a moment, fraction of a second. That patience, another P, that patience plays. And that is the time when you do not throw questions. That is the time when you do not do anything with the rhythm of the person. You do not interfere with the pace of the person. You do not interfere with the pitch of the person. You do not interfere with that particular gesture or that particular body language of the person. You cannot tell the person, hey, sit straight. You can't do that, because that is what the person is going through in the moment of now. What you have to do is you have to observe with your eyes and listen with your ear the moment of that experience in the now. When that pause starts developing eventually, there may come a time when you are going to ask questions. These questions should now remain persistent. The next piece, the persistent, because that is the time when they have never ever gone before. They also do not know. They need your help. And our help is what? Little bit more. Very good. Little bit more. You're doing so nice. Very good. This persistence allows that person's experience to give a gentle push to go ahead. And that push beautifies the entire patterns of his or her soul that is there deep within, which was till now not able to express itself. It was covered by so much of human knowledge. It was covered with so much amount of civilization. It was covered with so much amount of rights and wrongs. And therefore, that vital force was stuck over there, giving that person all the disease and pathology that he or she has come for. This persistence is the most beautiful thing, because it believes and it gives a belief that stay there, it will go ahead. And when I believe myself that it will go, with this persistence, you see the beauty of how it unfolds itself. Something strange that comes up, and again, that strangeness should not be having any sort of thought. How could it be this way? How could it be? No. It should contain, what is this? It should contain, where is this? It should contain, who is this? It should contain, what way is this? So all the W's that come in that process of understanding these patterns when you are being persistent. So the persistent is attached to the roads of W's. That W's which will explore the entire patterns which has gone through the prospect with that pause and being persistent, gives us the idea about how it is, what it is, where it is, who it is, why it is, when it is, what way it is. All these W's helps us in processing all that information to the minutest level. This is the stage when now we say that sweet that has been fallen on the tongue is now liquefied. It is now got together with the saliva. It is now all over the mucosal lining. It is now penetrating into the cells. It is now giving a parotid glands that stimulus to secrete extra saliva. That is the stage when we are now going into understanding. Wow, you get goosebumps. Oh, it is this color. Wow. Oh, it moves in this way. Wow. Oh, it is getting afraid of this. It is moving in that direction. All these factors are the content of his or her experience. And thus, when this is happening, the last P that comes up into the picture is the peculiarity. It is the peculiarity not of him. It is peculiarity not of her. It is the peculiarity of that soul which was deeply seated inside, which was not able to explore till now, which was not able to show itself till now. It was that flavor of that sweet which was in the box, which you never knew how it is. It only had a shape, it only had a form, it only had a color, it only had a coating, and it was sitting down in that square cube of that box. What you had was only to look at it and imagine about it that this is how it could be tasting, so I pick it up. But the reality of that entire flavor is when you start chewing it, when the tongue starts rolling over it, when the saliva starts dribbling, when you start mixing that sweet with the saliva, and when it really touches the mucosal lining and seeps into the cells and giving you the idea of what it is. This is where the peculiarity comes in, because the journey began with a purpose to have that sweet, with a purpose to understand the flavor of that soul, of that vital force, of that individual in its totality. Then you can describe that flavor of that sweet. Then you can describe the true picture of the disease of that person. Because now you have allowed your special senses to marinate with that of whatever the patterns of that individual is. You don't do anything. You don't think about it. Your mind is not working, but your special senses is tuning with that pattern. You're seeing the spikes of that vital force of that person. You're seeing the dips, the ebbs, and you're seeing the spikes, everything you're noticing in that moment of now. And that's the beauty of homeopathy, because you cannot compare it with any other patterns on this planet, of any other individual, except what you can compare it is that this is the pattern of the substance in nature. And that understanding, even you will be surprised. I never knew this. I never have tasted this sweet before. Likewise, I never knew this, that this pattern of the soul resembles to this substance in nature. Wow, I never thought about it. So it is like watching a movie. When you watch a movie, when you get into the theater, see the entire movie, then only in the end you can come to know the beauty of the entire movie in its totality, because you have seen from the start till the end. It is not just a trailer that you have seen. It is not just that people have told you good movie, good movie. No, you cannot analyze through what people tell you. You cannot analyze through just a trailer. But when you go to the theater, watch that entire movie, experience it. When you get goosebumps in particular shots of that particular movie, only then you can understand the entire movie in its totality. Similarly, every person coming to us is giving their own movie. They are the producer and director of their movie. For us, the idea is from the purpose to peculiarity, travel through that person's direction, that person's production, that person's story writing. You do not go there to act. You have to just sit down over there, relax yourself, take popcorn, eat popcorn, and watch that screen. Because that screen contains entire thing of that person. And this is what I really wanted to formulate in this book, with the ideas of peace, the ideas of purpose, possibilities, probabilities, then the idea of prospect, then going into the pause, then going into the idea of being persistent, and then getting the peculiarity. So entire journey, when you're doing that, you're seeing the whole idea of how the person's talk slowly, gradually changes, how that person's pitch, volume, rhythm, pace of language of talk, the sitting posture initially, the sitting posture later on, the gesture on the face initially, the gesture on the face later on, all the transformation that happens is like the seed when you sow, and when it germinates and starts shooting up, you see the beauty every day. One more leaf has come. Wow. One more leaf has come. Wow. One fine day, you see the flower blooming. Wow. You really feel that the job that you have done has given you that fruit of seeing that flower that has blossomed, seeing the beauty of the color of the flower, seeing the fragrance of the flower. That is where your special senses are working. But when you sow the seed, your special senses are not working. You're mechanically sowing the seed, putting the digging the soil, putting the seed, covering the soil, putting water every day, pouring this thing, everything you're doing is the entire process. But the day when it blossoms, that is the day when your special senses are working. The fragrance of the flower, the beauty of the color, the texture of the petals, everything gives you that special senses, the sense of touch, the sense of smell, the sense of sight. All this collectively gives you the idea of wow, what a beauty. And then we say, oh God, you have created such beautiful thing. But God resembles in everybody. It's not in just I seek for God. People say I go to pray to God. No, no, God is in you. God is everywhere. It's omnipresent. Likewise, what Hanuman said, the vital force is omnipresent. That is the Lord. That is the divine power. That is the ultimatum. And what we are trying to seek is how knowledgeable is he? How much qualified is he? How much educated is he? How rich is he? All these are of no use. Seeking God is seeking that vital force. The patterns that that vital force is exhibiting. That is God. That is the living energy. And when we stay with that, we are devoid of all the materialistic thing in life. And ultimately, it is like living the moment with experiential, not with impressions. Because I factor impresses. Experience, when a person is experiencing and experienced it, he or she will express it. Experience expresses, I impresses. This is what we all need to understand. This is exactly the content. People would ask me, why do you take such a long time to write this book? I said, I do not want to write something that is already written and making it into some different shape and form and transformation and just write. No, I don't like that thing. I wanted to understand where is the lacuna? Where are we shortfalling? What is the thing that is really needed? And then this P gave birth. Then this W came into existence. The idea about how to probe, where to probe, how do I go ahead with this type of this thing? And that's exactly, people are there who do not talk much. There are some people who talk very less. Some are extroverted, some are introverted. How to utilize these P's in those type of cases? Some are in the delusional level, some are in the projection level, some are completely in a depressed state. How will I utilize these understanding? What should I do? Many of them would send me mails, cases after cases. But the whole thing was nobody would ever send me cases with their own questions. Go back to our school days and see one question wrong in one of the subject, we would run to the teacher. Teacher, this question is wrong. We should get 5 marks. We would pounce on the teacher. Teacher, this is out of the portion. Teacher, this question is wrong. We have not seen this question in our books at all. When we had that knowledge then, why don't we have this today? Just because of the chair that I am doctor, so I know what to ask? No, it doesn't mean like that. The question should be pertaining to the portion. And whose portion? The portion of the patient. If your question is out of portion of that patient subject, then the patient will ask you, I am not following what you're asking. The patient will say, I can't think, I can't tell you what it is. And then you grumble, oh, patient is not talking. It is not the patient talking, it is the next P. The physician is not asking the right question. Again, there also P's are there, see that. The patient, the physician, and the purpose of asking question. Everything is now really making sense in its complete version. If we ask the right purposeful question with a proper intent, sacrificing my knowledge, burying my wisdom, I say bury the wisdom 10 feet down so that you can't even get it back again. That wisdom should go 10 feet down so that even if you dig, where was my wisdom? You should not get it. Only then you will be staying like a fool in the bunch of fools and enjoying the beauty of foolishness. The beauty remains in being foolish. Because when you're foolish, then only you can understand how come, why like this, why not like that. See how many parents come with small, small children. All of them will tell you, my child asked me so many questions, doctor, I'm fed up answering to his question. Are he is correct. Why is correct is because he's curious. Why you are fed up? Because you are trying to put logic into it. But he has got no logic in asking whatever he's asking. His asking is pure. So likewise, the physician should have that purity within himself or herself to ask everything, not assuming anything. I repeat again, to ask everything, not assuming anything. Moment you go on that path of assumption, you are lost. But if you are going to go on the path of knowing everything, that's where Hanuman used this word, unprejudiced on one side, assumption on the other side. Because you assume, you cannot be unprejudiced. If you are unprejudiced, you will not assume. For sure, this is the two opposite polarity of each other. And therefore, he puts it in footnote number 9 also, that if you are anybody living in the world of imagination, they definitely will be sick. Because now they are lost that connection. And therefore, they lost that communication. And therefore, they have lost that entire conversation. And therefore, inner voice speaks that I don't think I've gone anywhere with this case. I did not understand this case. I don't think the remedy will be right. Your inner voice speaks. But your intellect again plays a role. Let me see what happens. I'll give this remedy. Assuming and waiting for 15 days for the follow-up. Patient is not better. Blame it on the patient. You must have had this. You must have had that. You did this. You did that. That's why you're not well. How long? Out of the 365 days, you can make a patient fool for 364 days because of your DR. 365th day, the patient will ask you, Doc, now what? That is the time when you will not be able to answer because the day 1 was on the path of assumption. And therefore, from day 1, you have not been an unprejudiced observer. And therefore, 84A aphorism, not 84, 84A. The physician hitherto should ask all the questions based on his intellect and his wisdom, as he has already thought about the remedy. And therefore, the question that follow is following the remedy. For it is the physician's hearing, and it is the physician's vision. The way he hears, the way he perceives should be the ultimatum in treating the person, or else the individual shall not be cured. And that is the recipe of disaster. 84A aphorism, if you make it, it will be a recipe of disaster. 84 should be 84, where the patient details their history, not physician should detail the history of the patient. It is the patient who should come and tell you, I am green peas. It is the patient should come and tell you, I am that reptile. It is the patient that who should come and tell you, if you act smart in front of me, I'll be like this. It is the patient who should tell you, next time you fiddle with me, then you watch out. This is the patient's language, not the language of this that comes from here. Till the time the person talks from here, you can also understand. But when the patient is doing this, the patient doesn't understand. He or she doesn't know that they're doing this. And who understands that? Our senses that is observing understands this. Without us knowing what is this, it only perceives that it is this. When we ask further, what is this? What is the movement? Describe this thing a little bit more. That is the time when you see the beauty of that experience, devoid of all knowledge, devoid of all wisdom, devoid of all intellect, which has the purest form of the pattern of vital force expressed through gestures. And therefore, if you will ever read this book patiently, not the first time, but at least 2 to 3 times when you go through the entire chapters, you will start realizing what is it that has got the art of conversation. And not only as a homeopath, my dear friends, it's not about homeopathy only. How many patients have picked up the book, I'll tell you. Every second day, books are going like anything. Corporate people have commented, it's a real wonder. It's a real understanding of how to understand your own self first and then understanding somebody else. I can only understand others only if I understand myself. And therefore, people are just wondering, what is the purpose of my life? What is the first P itself begins over there. The purpose of life. Therefore, in the clinic, it begins in this way. What is the purpose of me asking that question? When you're seeking for purpose of life, you're seeking it for yourself. That means you've begun the P for yourself. Similarly, you're beginning the P in asking the other person in that fashion. And when you meditate over it, that is the time when you're going to reach to the peculiarity. When you go into the trance, you're gone from purpose to peculiarity. Because now you've cut off all the other things around you. And you've simply soaked inside in the deep trance meditation to go through that, all that possibility that will run in your thought, all that probability that will run in your thought initially, and a stage will come when everything becomes blank. And simply the patterns arises. And that patterns is going now skimming away the possibilities and probabilities. It just skimmed away. And then the trance begins where you are now going to reach to the peculiarity. Can you see in meditation also the same piece? In the life conversation is the same piece. When you eat the sweet, it is the same piece. Everywhere it is the same thing. Only thing is that just assemble those and put it up. But everywhere in life, knowingly, unknowingly, we are working with this piece. Knowingly, unknowingly, we are trying to be curious with the W's. Our curiosity about everything that is happening in and around us, even if it is not of use to us also. 9 out of 10 times we are curious about things that are not useful for us. And that is where our assumption begins. Because our P's are not clear, our W's are not clear. And we're swinging in between it. I think so he must have told about this to me. I think so they're talking about me. I think so they are accusing me. I think so they are thinking about me. Who are you to think so without knowing the reality? So let us not wander around here and there. Let us be focused in idea of understanding as to how all this works. Because ultimately, we are what we are. In a simple manner, if I to just tell you a small story. So one of the watchmen got a lottery of 1 crore rupees. The press came in, interviewing him. So, sir, now the thing is, sir, till yesterday it was watchman. Today, because he earned 1 crore, he became sir. So, sir, now that you have won a lottery, what are you going to do? He said, I will go to my native. I'll leave Bombay. Bombay is not for me. Till yesterday, Bombay was for him for everything. But today, when he got 1 crore rupees, Bombay is nothing for me. Things change. Transformation of thoughts and ideologies, which happens within a fraction of a second. It doesn't stay. So he said, I'll go to native. Good. What will you do going to native? Oh, I have 4 sons. I'll build 4 bungalows. I'll take a big plot and build 4 bungalows. Wow. Then what will you do? I will put all the furniture and everything that are required. Nice AC and everything. Then what will you do? I'll get 4 cars for each one. Equally share, no? So I'll get 4 cars for each one. Very good. Then what will you do? Then I'll sit at the gate and do watchman only. So you are what you are. After winning the lottery, everything you did, bungalow you made, you got car for everybody, you furnished the entire bungalow, everything. Ultimately, what are you going to do? The ultimate answer is, I'll still stay as a watchman for all the 4 bungalows. So what you were in Bombay, you are still going to be the same person over there. Person doesn't change. Likewise, the experience doesn't change. Situations change. From a watchman to a 1 crore rupee earner. From an ordinary man to a sir. From a person who was watchmaning somebody else's flat, he is now going to only do the same job, but his own property. Getting? But the vital force will still speak the same language. Situations, even though has changed, time has changed, your richness, your poverty, everything changes from one minute to other minute. Nothing remains permanent. But what is omnipresent is the pattern of the soul that is so divine, which will only see the way it has to see, not what you want to see. Nobody creates their desires. Nobody creates their aversions. Nobody creates love. It is automatically created because your aura creates that love. Your aura creates that desire. Your aura creates that liking, whether the liking of clothes, whether the liking of color, whether the liking of jewelry, whether the liking of person, anything. It's your aura. People say, oh, I did this, I did that, I bought an iPhone, I bought an iPad, I paid. But that I is simply your ego. And that ego comes with your thoughts. And the thoughts are not permanent. It is like simply saying on a hoarding, if you write, I want peace, and you remove that I, many of us will say, want peace will remain on the hoarding. But that want is attached to that I, not to that peace. If you remove that word I, the want also goes. What remains on the hoarding is peace. So peace is everywhere. But what is happening to that peace? This I is making that peace into pieces. One should understand that thing. This I is making that piece into pieces because I want. How will you get? Because you're trying to grab it forcibly. It's like holding a sand in your fist. The more you hold it tighter, the more it is going to go. Because that I is coming into that picture. So let us understand the content of this book through this understanding. How can I stay away from this I? And how can I really go from the purpose to peculiarity? Only possible if I can stay away from this I and reach to that destination and goal of peculiarity and see how beautiful life will be. Immense joy. People ask me, are you 57 really? I don't want to stress myself. I don't want to die under any stress. I'm okay. I'm content. I'm happy. I live with my brothers. Seminar here, seminar there, practicing here, going there, meeting people, enjoying with the young students, sharing, caring. And people tell me, what about your practice? I said, what about practice? No, you are earning. Earning, am I going to take that earning and go? I'll be buried with a 6 meter cloth only. Nothing else will be there. Even the chain and everything, people remove it out. So why should we be so much into all this materialistic world? So let us really understand the book. The content is simply with this idea, not with any commercial thought. Otherwise, I would have maybe long back I would have written books after books. Writing book is not an issue. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry writes book to these days. But the idea was, am I giving something back with a humanitarian cause? Was my ultimate aim and goal, which I really put it. And if God favors, one more to complete this, one more book to be writing. If I really get proper space, probably I'll do that thing. That will really be icing on this entire cake. Thank you.